spill the beans. We just mutated on Anaki James. Tiger blood, Charlie Sheen. Leadership level like a college dean. Addicted to the truth like crack is to a fiend. The elites killed the American dream. Along with Epstein, let's rage against the machine. Momentum picking up and I'm hardly burning steam. Positivity never makes it mainstream. The country's torn like some Levi James. Cutting the lawn, but I'm barely making greens. Give it to you straight like a laser beam. This fucking reality is not what it seems.
Guys, it's day 7. Eric back here in a rainstorm in front of Drake's house. I just wanted to show that Kendrick sucks, and I'm going to be doing an Opendoor TikTok at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time today with a guy named Growth Department. You can find out more on my X. Jackson in front of Drake's house, day 1. We're going to keep coming back until Drake buys 1 share in Opendoor Technologies.
Yo, Drake, buy the share. Hey, you guys are watching the Off Topic Show right now on YouTube. We're also on Compound Censored. We're on X, all social media, and I have a show for you today. Make sure you guys use promo code Off Topic to save 20% off your monthly and yearly subscriptions when you guys subscribe using promo code Off Topic. There's so many awesome shows on the network, but make sure to show your support for the Off Topic Show by using promo code Off Topic. Now, I have some notes right here because I wanted, this is a different interview from what we normally do. Actually, it's the Off Topic Show. We do a little bit of everything, but I want to try to hopefully bring some useful information to you guys, not just Karen's freaking out. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Eric Jackson, the founder and president of EMJ Capital, a Canada-based hedge fund renowned for its AI-driven approach to tech and media investments. With a Ph.D. in management from Columbia University, Eric has made waves in the investment world with bold calls, including a 7,000% rally on Carvana in 2022, and more recently sparking a 400% surge in Opendoor stock with his visionary $82 price target in 2025. A vocal presence on X, he engages retail investors with transparency and conviction, advocating for transformative companies while navigating both praise and skepticism. Eric's unique blend of academic rigor, AI-powered strategy, and market foresight makes him a compelling voice in today's financial landscape. Let me go ahead and bring him on right now on the Off Topic Show. Eric, how are you doing?
Hey, great to see you. I'm good.
Hey, good to see you. You're outside Drake's house. Wait, can I just ask, did you fly out to Drake to, why were you there? What's going on?
Well, I'm in Toronto, and so and that's where Drake's from, and so he calls it the Six. And if you listen to his lyrics and stuff, he's very into Toronto. He's always referencing these obscure Toronto streets and highways and stuff, and he features them on his album covers. Guy loves Toronto, and so I think people from Toronto kind of get used to being the little kid brother to to America. We're not as cool, we're not as hip, we wish we were American, but we're kind of not. We're up here in the tundra and all this kind of stuff. So I think when Drake sort of got on the world stage, in some ways it puffed everybody up in Toronto, and they sort of oh yeah, I guess we're not just schlubs up here. We could we can do things, aspire to things, and become world famous too. And he kind of he's a big Raptors fan. He was there's one famous YouTube video where he's after they win against the Warriors a few years ago in 2019, he's in front we did this, we built this, this is all about us and stuff. And I think everybody, there's surge in civic pride. And so, I love his music. I wouldn't say I was a Drake aficionado before this, but, I have 4 kids and a 16-year-old son, Julian, and we were, he's obviously home for summer. And we were talking about what I was doing with Opendoor. And he's like, maybe you should go and see Drake, go stand in front of Drake's house. talk about Opendoor. I mean, like that's a totally different, fan base that follows Drake versus the people that watch CNBC all day and so the wonky Wall Street types. And you keep saying, Dad, that this is such a great company with so much opportunity in front of it, and yet you got to shout it to the world. And so maybe that's the way to do it. He said, but if you do it, Dad, you can't just do it one off. You got to go every day. Like that's the way that people would start to pay attention to you and stuff. So
How often were you going out there? I mean, was it almost every day or?
Well, yesterday was day 7. So we're on day 8 today. So I know at some point I'll have to go over there. It's not too far away from where I live. So it's like a long dog walk away.
Well, can you go ahead and fill us in? So I looked up a little bit. What's this? Just for if nobody doesn't know jack shit about you, what's this thing about that you got popular for, and then now you're going popular for again right now? Just to kind of fill us in, to get us why, like what's going on? Why should I listen to you? Why? Not saying you don't know your shit, but if I don't know you, why should I listen to you? Let them know why.
Well, I've been a hedge fund manager for a while, and kind of up and down success, and try to find basically like little tech companies that are not the Mag 7, like that's but hopefully will grow to become, over a period of time, to become like big successful brand name, household name tech companies like Uber or something like that. And I've had up and down years, but if I look back honestly, like over my career, like my biggest hits have been like finding some really interesting stocks early. So like I found Alibaba really early, like 15 years ago, and realized it was going to be this like massive Chinese tech company. And then you kind of said at the beginning, like I found Carvana, after it had gone from like $400 in 2020 down to $3.50 in December of 2022, because basically the world thought that they were going to die. They thought they were going to file for bankruptcy, so that their shares were going to be worthless. So that's why they dropped so much. And I believed that they were not going to go bankrupt, and I thought that they were going to come back from the dead. And so one of my AI models flagged it when it was $11, not $3.50, but like sort of on the comeback trail. I got in at 15, and then now a couple of weeks ago it hit $413. So it's like a new all-time high for Carvana. So from 400 to $3.50 to 413 in basically what, a 5-year period. And so what was really interesting about that is that
I wanted to stop you. I wanted to AI model. Sorry, you heard AI model. What do you mean by that? I don't want to lose you here. What do you mean you used the AI model to help you? This wasn't you just thinking this through your own data you collected. You had some help. Can you just elaborate a little bit on?
Yeah, like obviously I tried to use my brain, and like there were some things that like perked my interest. I knew Carvana. I had traded Carvana. I made money from Carvana because they IPO'd in like, I don't know, 2016, 17, and they had done really well. They went from like $10 to $400. And so and I knew that they, like a lot of the insiders there, had been buying shares on the way down from 400 to 3. Like a lot of them were like, the CEO bought $70 million worth of shares in 2022, like right on the way down, right? And like the guy who's the chief product officer, like not a rich guy, he bought, I think it was $3 million in Thanksgiving 2022 at like $7.50. Now he's made bank since then, right? So so they're like, as a human like guy, I was like, people don't burn $70 million. Okay. Like I know that, so like, obviously these insiders knew that there was a story here that people were missing, but the AI model is like, I had a lousy, from a returns perspective, 2021 and 2022. Cause if you were like a guy like me looking for like little tech stocks, like those stocks got obliterated in 2021 and 2022. So at the end of 2022, I had a big investor. He pulled his money out. Like I sort of thought, like, oh my God, like, am I going to even be able to continue on? I don't have enough money in this hedge fund structure that I've built up, and I hadn't done a good job marketing myself. Am I going to lose my house, my kids, my wife? All these kinds of thoughts are going through your head. And I said, like, well, like the only thing I can do is like, I got to make sure I never have a 21 and 22 like that anymore. And it seems to me like the future, not just for hedge funds, but like for the world, the different industries, is AI. I think this was before chat GPT showed up, or just like as it was about, showing up. And so I built a little team. I like got all these like wonky computer engineers to start building models using AI and something called machine learning to basically, try to help me predict like where the markets are going, what stocks are going to go up, what stocks are about to like roll over and go down, and all this kind of stuff. And better than I had done as a human with my little feeble brain in 21 and 22. So like that was my goal. I didn't exactly know how I was going to do it. Obviously,
Okay.
like I studied a PhD like 25 years ago. So I knew like, hey, stats are important. Doing like rigorous analysis is important. And like, but the world is like getting, faster by the day with how you do financial analysis and stuff. So anyway, the first iteration of the very first model that we built with one guy working for me in 2023 came back and said, "Yeah, you should make Carvana, your second largest long position," when it was like $11. And I was like, "Is this right? Like, I'm not sure." Like I mean, I liked the company. I knew they'd bought a lot of stock, but they had just been at $3.50 a few months before. And so, it's like make it the number 2 long position in my portfolio. Is this right? And so the one guy went away, and like a week later he comes back and says, "No, I think it's right. I think that's exactly what this is saying." And so, I bought it, and then I got asked to be on CNBC a couple of weeks after that, and mentioned it, and the reaction was kind of like silence. Like nobody tweeted about it. Nobody said, "Oh my God, Eric Jackson just says the next Carvana is Carvana. Let's jump on the train, man. Like ride or die to 400." Nobody was saying that. Nobody cared. Everybody thought it was a zero. Everybody thought that you got to be a bunch of losers running this company if you let it go from 400 to $3.50. So, and then I don't think like anybody paid attention till the thing was above $300, like a year and a half later. Like there was no meme stock craze about it or anything like that. People just didn't think, they thought it was physically impossible for a stock to go from 400 to $3 to 400. But now that it's been done, now like all of a sudden, like everybody wants to know what's the next Carvana. And so like that's what sort of led me earlier this year to say, okay, I'm good at finding the Carvanas. Let's find the next Carvanas that can 10x, 50x, 100x. And I found Opendoor was one that just like I just came up with 6 weeks ago.
And well, man, technically you're on what they call on fire if we're playing NBA Jam. But I'll tell you, I have it written right here, some notes. I have GameStop. I just want to ask a question. When you say meme stocks, can you just tell, just like if somebody with a pea-sized brain like mine, because wasn't that GameStop situation in the cinema something about memes? Can we just, what was that about? Yeah. In hindsight, what was that about? And that's kind of what you're talking about in a way here a little bit.
Right. So in 2021, in January 2021, if you paid attention to stocks at all, like, and somebody asked you like, "Hey, what do you think of GameStop?" Like you would have like chuckled and said like this thing was like a zero. A bunch of like big Wall Street hedge funds were shorting the stock, meaning they thought it was like going to go down to zero. The stock was trading at like, I don't know, $3 or $4 back then. And it wasn't on CNBC. Nobody was paying attention to it. And then all of a sudden there was this guy named Roaring Kitty who was doing YouTube live streams, and he was like, in his basement. I guess he was working at some Boston financial firm for a day job and stuff. And he felt that this was an undervalued stock, even though it's like a dying retail chain for, where I take my kids to buy video games and stuff. And anyway, he was right. And but there was this whole online like retail driven movement that coalesced behind him, and it started to take on a life of its own. And it became a situation where the more retail bought into this like little stock, there was such a heavy short interest that the only way to get out of a short position when you're some like fancy Wall Street firm is you gotta buy back your short position, which means it's further fuel on the fire of buying that pushes up the price of the stock. And so GameStop, I think, went from $4 to, I mean, they've done a split. So I think at one point it was like $400 a share or something like this. Like the thing just like moonshotted in like 3 weeks, and everybody was talking about it. It was like all that people could cover on CNBC, like 24/7 and stuff.
Too, right? AMC as well, or AMC, was that not?
No, yeah, and then what happened is there were these like other stocks that got sort of like caught up in that same frenzy. And so AMC was the next one. And nobody
Okay.
knows why. Nobody has ever been able to explain to me why the heck was it AMC that there's suddenly people on Reddit started to focus on. And then BlackBerry was the third. And then Bed Bath and Beyond was the fourth, and which has since gone bankrupt. And so everybody said, oh, it's meme stock mania. Oh, these dumb retail traders, what the hell are they doing? Like this doesn't make any sense, but it's speculative excesses in the market. And what are you going to do? And everybody's at home and they've got the free checks from Biden for COVID. And they're spending money like drunken sailors. They're bored out of their minds, and that's the only thing. That's the only way we can explain all this. And so, and they made a movie out of it and everything. And then it's sort of like, eventually it died down because, like, let's be honest, all these stocks are pretty lousy businesses. So there wasn't really anything, to back up this excitement, and it sort of died off. And then, but Opendoor sort of, when I tweeted about it 6 weeks ago, it started to take off, and then like a week later, all of a sudden, like Krispy Kreme donuts takes off. GoPro, which was like a dead and gone stock, takes off, and then Sydney Sweeney was in like in an ad for American Eagle, and so suddenly American Eagle stock like was up 30%, and everybody said, "Oh, the meme stocks are back. Open Doors, just one of these dumb meme stocks again. Like, what are you gonna do? People are crazy again. Stupid retail traders. What a bunch of idiots again." And so that all got sort of focused back on. Jim Cramer said, "Oh, Open Doors a parlay," which means like to get to the price target, which I put out when I put my original like July 14th tweet of like I bought Open Door shares between like 70 and 80 cents. I built up this like analysis where I said, like, I think in 3 years, this company, which we haven't even talked about what they do, like could be worth like $82 a share by 2028. So 3 years from now. And everyone's like, what? $82 from 82 cents? Like, are you nuts? Like 100x? Like, that's crazy. And Jim Cramer was asked about it, and he said, I think it's a parlay, meaning like it's like you got to have like 16 bets go right for this thing to pan out. And he was sort of like saying like, this guy Jackson must be a grifter and pump and dumper, and he's just sort of saying all this stuff. And I don't know.
The reason why they probably think that is wondering, why are you giving out this knowledge? Like, why would you give out this kind of information? It seems like you just kind of give it out to people without getting anything back. So that's why people are it's like people give me a hard time. They think I'm always on drugs just because I'm high energy, and I've never been on anything. I've always been just a high energy person. So my whole life, people thought I was on drugs. It's just who I am.
Right.
So it comes off weird. In this world where everybody's on something, it's weird to people to think somebody can naturally be that way. So why would you just openly give out information to help people if you're not wanting anything back? It's the reason why I think these people look at you and would want to say something, because they want something. Hey, I'll tell you what's up, but pay behind a paywall. Or if you want, it seems like you
Right.
kind of just shell out your information. Why do you do this?
Well, I mean, like I got involved like, I don't know, 20 years ago, I was involved in like an activist campaign against Yahoo. And for like 10 years of my life, like I got, it was basically a total waste of time because the company was so screwed up. Nothing helped. Nothing I said or did helped improve that company. But, one thing I learned from that experience, and you sometimes see this on Wall Street when you see activists, is that, all these guys, they buy shares in these companies. So they're shareholders. And then they decide to go public because they hope that they are influential. They hope that if they articulate like what their strategy is for this company, why they think it's going to go up. I mean, anybody who goes on CNBC, I mean, they're basically pumping their bags, right? That's just like that's a way of saying like they're articulate. A nicer way of saying it is articulating their thesis, meaning like trying to share with the world why this particular stock is so undervalued. And the reason why they do that is they hope that the world agrees with them, and they hope that the world reprices their stock from $10 a share to $30 a share, or whatever it is. And so in my case, I bought my shares in between 70 and 80 cents. The stock hit a low of 51 cents on June 25th. So basically like 2 months ago from now. And now, like, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I didn't know like there was going to be some like retail like revival of the GameStop mania. I think it's the biggest retail movement since GameStop. And the thing has 10x. A couple of days ago it was like $5.87. So it had more than 10x in 2 months. So that's why you do it. That's why you share it with the world. You share it with the world to hopefully influence the world to see the world the way you see it, and to say, hey, this is an $82 stock. This is not an 82-cent stock. And what's weird is that this board of directors of this company, Opendoor, and the previous CEO who quit because we were so critical as like a bunch of retailers that she just couldn't handle it and she just quit like a week ago. Like the thing is, like, that CEO was selling shares of Opendoor at 56 cents, and the board of directors was signing off on it. They're saying, yeah, like, you got to believe that your stock is probably going to 26 cents. If you're selling your shares, you're dumping them on retail at 56 cents a shares.
You
And
mean to tell me you mean to tell me your power online got this person to step down? Your power of bringing awareness about this was just like the Cracker Barrel thing, how Trump was able to talk about it, and now they're going back on what they did. You mean to tell me another example of somebody was able to kind of say, hey, look here, and then they felt stupid, and look what happened. I mean, the power of the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't me alone. I mean, there's a whole worldwide movement of retail shareholders, and that's what's really crazy about this is that Opendoor only operates in the United States, but we've got people from Sri Lanka. Somebody texted me like, I'm in a rural village in southern India, and I'm riding with the Open Army, ride or die to 82, Eric. I'm with you. Three people from Nepal, one guy from Afghanistan, somebody down in Antarctica told me that he was ride or die with the Open Army.
Dude,
I said I didn't think anybody lived in Antarctica, let alone trade stocks.
I'm out here in Sicily. I got the space. What is it? Starlink. With the internet, you could be anywhere in the world. I tell people, and that's how you connect. You were just now telling me that you could be anywhere. There's people from Antarctica reaching out to you. Can we just take a pause there? How cool is it to just think that your message could get out to people all around the world in this digital age? I mean, there's something really awesome there, right? I mean, I just set everything else aside, how cool it is to live nowadays. Everyone's so sky is falling, the world's ending. We got a cool device right here. I mean, I don't know. It's about how you look at it, but I don't know. What do you think that?
I love it. I love the connections with all these people from around the world because, and I always try to make it personal. Like, I always try to personalize it. Like, somebody's like, hey, we're from Malaysia, Eric. We just want you to know we're with you. And I'm like, hey, man, like 20 years ago, I had to go I was a management consultant, and I had to did a conference in Kota Kinabalu, Malaysia. Love that place, man. I love Kota Kinabalu. And they Malaysia? You respect where I live. You see me. I mean, that's kind of the reaction. And it's like, yeah, damn right, I see you. And like, I see everybody. And I think it's super cool. And the other amazing thing is, like, I get so many people say, hey, Eric, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm from Spain. I'm from the UK. When is Opendoor coming here? I can't stand the local greedy real estate monopoly. They're just like, they're grinding us with these crazy fees. It's too expensive to buy a house. Like, I'm gonna be 40 before I'm able to afford a house. Like, you hear all this stuff. Like, and so, like, there's so many layers to this story. It's about, like, coming together. It's about retail versus the tech elites. It's about just like wanting the dignity of like owning your own home. And I don't know, just like it's super cool to be a part of that. This whole Drake thing is like, been just another thing. Like, and the amazing thing is, like, there's so many people that get mad at me along the way, and they tell me to shut up and be quiet. And so, like, with the prior CEO, the 56-cent CEO, like, before she quit, I got so many people saying, you are going to tank the stock. You are being so critical of Carrie. How can you say that? Would you please send her an email and tell her that you're sorry? Would you please? You're going to tank the stock, Eric. And I said, like, hey, man, I'm a shareholder. I'm not her husband. I don't have to say I love her. I just want her to deliver some value. And the same thing with Drake. It's like, I hope you get arrested. You are trespassing on his property. This is ridiculous. And all I know is, like, I don't know, 1.5 million people have watched these like crazy Drake videos in the last week. And I don't think any of them were watching, CNBC and ever heard of Opendoor before. And if any of them, if like 10% of them say, hey, maybe I should be like investing in quality stocks like Opendoor and not like wasting my money on
Hey,
sports betting or whatever, like I think that's cool.
well, you know what it is? I think it's very cool, but it seems like everybody today is like a middle child in a Mormon family. In order to stand out, you have to make some noise. And and that's what you're doing. But you're not doing it in a negative way. You're not doing it how somebody has to walk on somebody or belittle somebody to bring attention. You're doing it being bold, but you're not doing anything wrong. That a lot of people in this digital age try to do outlandish shit to stay relevant. That's why it sucks when a lot of people, they might go internet famous for some kind of viral sensation, but then they always got to raise the bar and their flame burns out. It seems like you've just had this knack for just filling the market the same way I had a knack with filling out bands before they got big, and I got the pre-interview before they blew up later, but they still remembered me. They still remember the conversation, and that played dividends later when they were on a big record label, but they still would come talk with me because they remember. So how important is it to listen to your gut? Because I think you've had to listen to your gut a lot to be able to be as successful. So maybe we can give a couple pointers to people out there on how important that is when you're betting, not betting, but when you're investing in yourself or into stocks and everything. How important is it that you have to listen to your gut? I mean, I want to give some tips.
I think, I think that's like everything. Like when I said before at the beginning of this interview that like at the end of 2022, I had this like guy who's literally he's a billionaire. He's like a multi-billionaire. Like he like gave me my break like 10 years ago to start my hedge fund. And he just decided after 22, he was like pulling his money out. And because I had bad performance in 21 and 22. So like that's his right. And it was like 99.5% of my assets. And I had a little amount of money left, but I was like, am I going to be able to continue? And I had like lawyers advising me and like, fund directors, basically saying, I don't think you can do this anymore, Eric, like just close up shop and stuff. And I didn't want to do that. But like I get asked to go on CNBC, and to be honest, I felt like a bit of a fraud, because I'm going on CNBC, I'm talking about Apple and Nvidia and Tesla and all this kind of stuff, giving my thoughts, they were my honest thoughts, but like, I wasn't saying, and by the way, like I just lost my biggest investor, like I'm kind of like a fraud here, I'm not a real hedge fund manager. That's how I was feeling inside, right? And so, I always worried like what happens like if people like approach me and like ask me details like about all my up and down performance, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, like at the beginning of this year, like before this whole Opendoor thing, I just said like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it fly. I am who I am. People don't like it. They don't have to invest with me. They don't have to deal with me. They can hate me online or whatever, but I'm just gonna kind of say what I think, and I don't care anymore. And and at least it'll kind of whittle the prospective investors down to those who say, hey, I like who you are. I don't care about your choppy performance. I don't care that you screwed up in 21, 22. I like what you're doing now. Hey, you're my guy, and it'll just make my life easier because I won't have to deal with all the other people saying, wasting my time, with the emails and stuff. So, and I kind of put it out there, and Bloomberg wrote up an article about it. So it was like all out in the open, and it was like a huge weight off my chest. And then I just did this Opendoor thing, like, and every day I get up, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do that day. I didn't know I was gonna go to Drake's house, and I was like, yeah, does this make sense? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's see where it goes. And then like doors open, and like you walk through it, and then like every other day, like there's stuff happens, and you meet people, and people approach you, and they say, oh, that was super cool. Like I really want to get to know you and stuff. And you're like, how did this even happen? This is like 6 weeks. It feels like 6 years. Like I call it like Opendoor time these last 6 weeks.
And do you think Drake? I mean, there's chances. Who knows? I mean, in this digital age, who's to say he hasn't probably already came across and seen it? Now, talking about it out in the open, maybe not, because when you're that big and you just come out and maybe want to talk about it, you're kind of, you know what I mean? There's probably who knows? Who knows? Maybe he will. Maybe he will.
Well, I think there's better than even odds. Like we eventually we meet and talk, and eventually like he buys a share or hopefully more. I mean, I told him I said online, like Drake, this thing could 100x. Like you want to beat Kendrick? Like you buy $100 million worth of Opendoor stock, and like 3 years from now, you're a 10 billionaire. Like there's no, that you won then.
And
What's he
what
gonna say?
and what's oh, he's going to say I'm in, hopefully. But this stock, we do know right now everything's moving faster than 2020. Heck, even 2 years ago, when it comes to artificial intelligence, AI, everything, Trump bringing jobs back, the manufacturing jobs for AI, we get it. We know the direction. Some would say this is Operation Warp Speed 2.0 in the sense that when Trump leaves the office, we're going to go through such a dramatic shift that people are going to be like, where did time go? So with that being said, tell me more about this Open. What's this all about? This is what kind of tech, what kind of company is this? And is there any other tech companies or any other companies you might be looking at, or are you just focusing on this one? But it does feel like everything's moving quick, no? Doesn't it feel like things
Oh
are
yeah.
moving fast? Like
For
dark
sure.
matter and dark energy, like just rapid? It feels that way.
Well, yeah, like I mean, like, and so Opendoor, you know, we're getting it. Like I talked about that Carvana example from like 400 to 3 to 400, right? Like that whole period was like 5 years, but there was like no attention at that time. Like nobody was paying attention to it. Now with Opendoor, I think we're going to see that same kind of U shape recovery. But because there's so much more attention, like, it wouldn't surprise me if like that whole U gets compressed and like basically the rise up goes a lot faster. I mean, we'll have to see though, but things are moving quicker. I agree with you. You basically, Opendoor is very similar to Carvana or similar to stock like Uber. Like Uber came along and it said, "Hey, the world taking taxis is inefficient. There's a better way of doing this. We can use our mobile phones to kind of make it a seamless process." Carvana said, "Hey, the world of buying and selling used cars in America is crappy. We don't like going to the car dealerships to deal with them and paying them their big fee. Let's do it direct." Airbnb said, "Hey, like let's do the kind of a direct way of like handling, like going and staying at somebody's place in Sicily or wherever, right?" And so like all those guys are now like this e-commerce interface layer for those markets, transportation, B&Bs, and then real estate for Opendoor is like what they're all about. They're trying to be that interface layer for real estate. Now, real estate, buying and selling your house, is a huge market. Like venture capitalists always talk about total addressable market. Well, in the U.S., like the residential real estate market is $20 trillion, and 14 trillion of that 20 are tied to mortgages. And about 5% of Americans move every year. So there are like these it's a huge volume of transactions. And everybody would agree it's a very inefficient today dealing with the agents and paying a 6% commission rate to these agents. And often people are like scratching their heads wondering what the agents did to justify that extra 6%, by the way. So what if you could deal with like an interface layer that sort of matched buyers and sellers using AI in a much more efficient way, kind of like dialing up an Uber. If you dialed up your Opendoor, like that's the dream of like that. Now it hasn't been like that. Company's been around for like 10 years. And so it's been an iBuying. So it's the companies had to step in and buy the houses and make cash offers to people and kind of say, like, for a lot of Americans, they don't want to put their house up for like 6 months and like waiting to see if somebody comes along and makes them a decent offer. So Opendoor said, "Hey, you have $400,000 house. Hey, we'll buy it today for $375,000, and we'll close like within the next few weeks, and we'll wire the money into your account." A lot of people want that price and security, but they got themselves into trouble like buying too many expensive houses before it's kind of interest rates jacked up, and then they got sort of stuck holding the bag with them. Now the
ask real quick, not to stop, but
Yeah.
it's related. Donald Trump, I guess, is making it where you can't buy homes anymore of just cash. May I ask why that's going to be a thing where they don't want you to be able to just buy? Is there a reason? I like what you're saying here. This all makes sense. I'm saying this is all great. Can I ask, have you heard about that? I heard about that.
I haven't heard about that. I mean,
why would that
be? I mean, I doubt that he would care. I mean, about people who want to pay all cash. But I do know that like it's a big focus of his to reduce the costs of home ownership in America, because like everybody's always complaining about cost of living, and there's nothing that's like eats up more cost of living for everybody than the cost of their mortgage and the cost of their house. And so he's been doing things like, hey, maybe people should be able to borrow against, Bitcoin. because they don't have, like that they might be wealthy, but they, might not have the W-2 income that they use when they go into the banks to get the mortgage to buy a house and stuff like that. But they're like, he has like Bill Pulte working for him, and like they're always like trying to think of ways to kind of lower the cost. And there are a lot of good ideas out there. There's, I don't know, we can get into wonky details. Like there's some law from 1974 called RESPA that artificially like keeps mortgage rates, agent rates, and insurance rates like artificially high in the US, whereas compared to like most of the Western world, like Australia, for example, like those combined costs would be like 3% versus like 10% in America. So there's like on a $400,000 house, you're paying like, I don't know, another 30 grand just for fees, and like if you banned this stupid law from 1974, like those fees would like sit in your pockets. So
So what you're
there are
doing
things.
is your
Yeah,
investment
go.
into this company is kind of like cutting out the middleman in a way and going like
Well, long term, yeah, long term, the goal of this company is cut out the agents and cut that 6% fee totally out of the equation. And so,
okay.
like, and you wouldn't necessarily, Opendoor wouldn't necessarily be buying your house, but they would be sort of like this AI trusted Uber, Airbnb. Airbnb doesn't own the B&Bs. Uber doesn't own the taxis. They don't deal, they don't own the riders, but they're this trusted interface level that everybody comes to. Everyone like knows the brand. That's the end goal, like 5 years from now for Opendoor, to be that not just in the US, but like worldwide, because everybody's hungry for it.
And when you say trust, I mean, right now we're finding out like the family who lost their kid because of open AI, even though the parents, it looks like they're not trying to take accountability, but it's a touchy subject regardless. And it seems like depending on which company is creating this AI, it could have a whole different, it's almost like one AI created has a woke mentality. The other one has a different. So it comes down to how much do we trust AI in general, the people, the market, and then this company, not, this company that you want, people to invest in, people to trust their AI to make these decisions and to handle that, and I think a lot more people, we're seeing a lot more people keen to this idea. I think this is why this is working out, because maybe 4 years ago, they would have gave you a middle finger to this kind of talking, but now I think it's going to happen even quicker. I think it's going to, more people are jumping on.
I mean, the way these company boards work is like, if I had been doing this alone, or even with like all the open army that's like with me, like they would have given me the middle finger for sure. The only reason why they haven't been able to do that in this case is that there's a co-founder of Opendoor named Keith Raboy, who left the company in, I think it was 21 or 22, kind of in a huff where there was like a disagreement at the board level. And some other co-founders left, and they would say like, we were right, and the people on the board over these last 3 years would say, oh, we were right, and I'm sure the truth is somewhere in between. But I always have wanted, like, I've always felt like, hey, this company has John Scully running it. Like, that's the old person who used to work for Pepsi, who was brought in to kind of turn around Apple and was a complete dud. And they need a Steve Jobs. So eventually Apple had to go back to their founder and bring him back. And once they did, Steve Jobs just totally revolutionized that company. And it just went from being a laughing stock, where Michael Dell had like joked with Steve Jobs that he should just like declare bankruptcy already and put everything in boxes, to now it's like the one of the most valuable companies in the world. And so I've said, like, my dream, when I like wrote my little tweet thread, on July 14th at 2 p.m. originally with my $82 price target, like if you'd ask me, like, what's your dream of dreams, Eric? My dream of dreams would be like somewhere along the way, we'd have this like little like, kind of put pressure on the company, and Keith Raboy, this founder, this sort of Steve Jobs type, would come back in, not necessarily as a CEO, but like as the person to pick the next CEO, because I think that person is going to be like this, have to be this founder type, this like trailblazer, and who has this tech background and product chops, and kind of lead the company to the promised land. So that's still my hope, and I know every day I get more confident that we're one day closer to that.
Well, I had two questions for you that I actually had AI asked, and I asked AI to give me the two best questions for you. I'm just being upfront about AI, and these were the two, and it piggybacks off of what you were just saying. So I haven't even asked you these yet. So it says, your Opendoor, this is just AI. I said, AI, help me out. I use AI to kind of be my middleman to help me through doing the stuff.
Sure.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I think
me
you
too.
understand. So it says, your Opendoor price target of $82 per share sparked a massive rally and debate on X. What specific data or trends convince you of Opendoor's potential, and how do you respond to critics who call it a meme stock play? Hey, I thought it was a good question. That's a good question,
Yeah,
though, right?
that's a good. That's a twofer. Okay, so like, so the first one, I get this a lot. How in the heck did you come up with $82? That's so like seems so random and so specific. Why not 75? Why not 100 and all this? So basically, Opendoor doesn't make money the way that Carvana didn't make money. Like both these companies, like they had to get a lot of debt. They were like encouraged by Wall Street to just grow, grow, grow. We don't care that you lose money because they have zero interest rates and all this. So they've had to pivot, like to try to focus on profitability. So you can't use like in Wall Street, like people always use like price. What's your price to earnings ratio as a sort of like a measure of like how valuable, how expensive are you, how cheap are you, and all this kind of stuff. So you can't use that though with these companies that lose money. So what I do is I use something called price to sales. So your price, your valuation relative to what you're doing it every year in sales. And so if you looked at what Carvana was like, in 2020, before the interest rates got jacked up, they were like trading at 6 times forward price to sales for the next year's sales. At the low point in June 22, they went down to 0.5x, next year's sales. And now they've come all the way back to 400 and they're back to 5x next year's sales. So 6, 0.5, 5. With Opendoor, they went from 7x, before the interest rates got jacked up to a low of 0.1x. And now, even with this recent rally where they've 10x, they're still only like 0.5x next year's sales. So I said, like, let's assume they get back to this sort of steady state profitability the way Carvana did in 3 years from now. In 3 years from now, in 2028, like, and they're looking ahead to the next year, which would be 29. What do the Wall Street experts, the gurus, say that they should be doing in revenues then? Well, I think it's low, but they say $12 billion in revenue in 29. So that means if you like do all the calculations, they should be trading at $82 a share. That's where that came from. And then the second part of the question was, remind me, there was like
Yeah, it says I had it right here. Open case. So the trends convinced you of open
meme
doors
stock
potential. Yeah, how you respond.
Yeah.
This,
How do you?
meme stock.
Yeah, people like to poop on it and say it's a meme stock, like implying it's just a silly stock that like GameStop. I'd say it's not a meme stock. We like using memes, like when I tweet on X or whatever. I love using memes. I mean, I think we're hardwired to kind of love like funny images and humor and music and stuff. Like it's way more effective than words. But I don't think it's a meme stock because like you couldn't pay me to buy stock in any of those like meme stocks that we just talked about. I call Opendoor a cult stock, and so there've only been 2
Wait,
stocks.
hold on. You said the C word, sir. We're not. No, hold on. Not here on my show. We're not doing. No, just kidding. Anytime you say cold, anytime you say that word, whoa, you said cold. But go on.
So I've only heard cult stock used for 2 stocks in the last 10 years for tech. One is Palantir. Do you know Palantir? So yeah. Palantir is like this big like AI stock now. It's like almost like $500 billion. But like it IPO'd like 5 years ago. It was like got as low as like $5. And now it's like $180 or something like that. And like a lot of people like have even at $5, like there were like bears about Palantir, and they said like it's not worth it. $5, that's way too expensive. Like they were saying it should have been trading at 50 cents when it was $5. And they said like and what was different is like there was this huge retail following in Palantir that even at $5 they loved Palantir. They thought it was a great company. They thought like for sure it's going to go to the moon. And like all these Wall Street types and people on CNBC were like, what does retail know? These guys are idiots. They're not smart and sophisticated like us and dressing in our 3-piece suits, and having all these like 3 martini lunches like we do in Midtown Manhattan and all this kind of stuff. What do they know? They're just a bunch of grunts. And it turns out, what do you know? They were right. So that was called a cult stock. And the other one was Tesla. Not now, because now Tesla's like part of the Mag 7. It's so big. But like back in 2016, 17, 18, like there were a ton of people that were like bears on Tesla. And this was like when Tesla was like 5% of the market cap value that it is now, or 10%. And they said like, it can't make money. They're going to lose, all these investors, like, it's going to zero. There were so many, the Tesla bears, and there was this cult phenomenon of like there was like retailers that just love Tesla. Like I like one of my older son is like 20, and his best friend's dad has been like in the Tesla cult for 17 years. He's like, he was telling me the other day, I don't know if his wife knows about this. He said like basically all our net worth is in Tesla stock. You know, it's like I hope they get this like autonomy right and this robots right, because like otherwise it won't be that great for us. But you know, he's like all in. He just loved it. So there's this like cult phenomenon, and I think like the kind of passion that the retail traders have, you know, just in these last 6 weeks around Opendoor, which has never been reciprocated, by the way, by anyone in the Opendoor management and the board. They're a bunch of like out to lunch
That was
bums.
my next question. I wanted to hold on.
You know, anyway.
I want to just go. It says only because I want to. It says you're suggesting joining Opendoor's board to represent a retail shareholders. What specific changes would you push for to help Opendoor scale globally and achieve your vision of it becoming the Airbnb of housing? So I don't know. It's just another good dude. I think we're all connected. We're in the hive mind. I don't know, dude. This has been a great conversation.
This is the hive mind.
And I've learned. I don't know. Just go on. I'm having fun. Thank you very much for even coming on here. This is like towards the last question. I know you're a busy guy, so go ahead and let us know about what would you do if you were.
Well, first thing is like I really want this like Steve Jobs guy, like Keith Raboy, to come back into the company. I think he's the right person to choose the next CEO for this company, and that's probably the most important next decision that this company can make, because that from that CEO, like I think it should be somebody like Travis Kalanick, who was the founder and CEO of Uber for like the first 10 years of its life, and then he was like unceremoniously like cast aside. But he was like, he just built that company into a machine, and they need somebody like that. Now, I don't know if he's interested or not, but they, you know, Keith would find the person like that to kind of revitalize this company. That's the most important thing. But obviously, they got to make a huge push into AI. You know, like when I started this whole campaign, I remember a lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, they should partner. They should partner with Palantir for AI. They should partner with an OpenAI or ChatGPT to like, because they got all this real estate data." And I was talking to this like one guy who works with Keith, who used to work at Opendoor, and he worked at Palantir before that. And he's like, they don't need to do that at all. They just need to like hire some good people, because they've lost like a bunch of like really top AI engineers to places like Meta and OpenAI over the past few years. So, you know, if I was working there, like I'd just like put a crack team of AI engineers. And why should we share any of our economics with those partners? Because those guys are going to want 50% of our profits if we partner with them. Just do it ourselves internally at Opendoor. Like we got all the data, and that's like the mother's milk here. So it would take like 3 months to do that. So, you know, like that focus has to happen. They're obviously like people, they have to embrace this like retail love. Like Palantir, they do their earnings calls as video calls. They show who they are. They thank the retail investors. They actually take questions on the earnings calls from retail investors, as I think like as many from the retail group as they do from like the three martini, 3-piece suit Wall Street analysts, you know, and then that shows like how much they value that retail group.
Yeah, not a fake CEO from Cracker Barrel going on and say, we learned from everybody. They want us to do it. You're lying through your teeth, woman. I'm just saying it shows transparency, and if people are messing with your people are, things are getting tighter. It feels like everything's drying up. So if I have money to invest, I want people to be honest and trust.
And that's an important point here that ties to your questions about Trump and like how does all this fit together? Like Trump, the reason why Trump won, he was authentic, and he could go on these like podcasts for 2 hours and like answer any question that anybody ever threw at him, right? And like people said, yeah, okay, you know, like he's, you know, some things I like, some things I don't like about him, but like this is a real guy. He's not like some fake constructed elite guy. And so like that's the and that people want that not just from their politicians, they want that from their you know, business leaders, their CEOs, their boards of directors, their, you know, shareholder advocates and stuff. We want that from everybody in our life. Like we want real people, you know, that we could feel like we could talk to, we can make a cogent argument to, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that.
You can use AI and have robots walking beside us. Doesn't mean you have to be fake like the robot. You don't have to be fake like the food. You could be true to yourself and be an honest person in a digital world. And so when we see people that are real and they're genuine, it makes us feel like, okay, I'm not the only one here. I mean, if you have a heart and soul and you want to see a good future. Anyway, that's the way I feel about it. That's the way, at least what I'm getting from you. You can work together and be a hybrid. It's not an enemy. as people would want to say, and as scared as a lot of us are with AI and artificial intelligence, you're basically saying, hey, we can actually help you. And it's just a crazy time to be alive, Eric. I definitely get what you're putting down. Is there anything you want to say to anybody who watches you on X and who's looks for your advice, before we wrap up today? Anything you just like to want to say to people out there who want to maybe take this chance, and maybe even Drake's listening right now. So Drake,
Well,
God's plan.
like we definitely want Drake. Like this is real stuff here. This is like, I think everybody should get interested in the stock market. I think everybody should like it's way more, I think, constructive and life changing. Like imagine if I'm right and this thing does 100x. Like how many like there are people now that like are sending me messages, like even with the 10x move that's happened in these last 6 weeks. Like I'm out of debt, Eric. Like I paid off my student loans or something. Like I'm not going to eat noodles tonight. One guy said to me, I don't know if this is true or not. I mean, this is just what people are telling me. This is just a 10x move. But imagine if I'm right and this is a 100x move. That's life changing. That's generational wealth. You're not going to get that sports betting. You're not getting that like playing the lottery, or drinking or whatever. Like I'm not saying like don't have fun. I'm just saying like, gosh, like there's so much potential value here for so many people to get excited and get interested in the stock market and find a great community of people, share ideas, hive mind. I think this is total hive mind. Like I'm not the smartest guy in the smartest tool in the tool shed, but like together, if we work together, like I'm always asking like people. Just this morning, some guy who like worked at Opendoor for 4 years, he's like sent me some private DM and he's like, hey man, like I was always trying to tell these guys, like they were leaving like hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table every year for the 4 years that I was working there because they didn't do this instead of, and they did this. And that was one of the reasons why I quit. And I said, awesome. I mean, like, and I screenshotted it and I put it on Twitter, and so my 80-some thousand followers could see it. And I CC'd the current CEO, the interim CEO. I said, hey, Shrisha, woohoo, take a look at this. This is what your old boss was doing. You got to get on this. And like, within like an hour, he's like, yeah, thank you for flagging that. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna fix this. I'm like, that's cool. Like, and then we could do that today. We couldn't do that 5-10 years ago, 15 years ago.
But you're also doing it with good intentions, though. A lot of people imagine if people like Mr. Beast, Aiden Ross, all these people, not just about stocks or something, but let's say we all want to get on the same wavelength and to make some global change on a global scale. All they would have to do is all of us would just have to tweet and say something. You know what I mean? But no, everybody wants to spread this for their own agenda. So I get exactly what you're putting down. Before we go, I want to show you this image. I want to know what you think. Colin Kaepernick's going back to the NFL, man. I want to know what you think. That's right here. Hold on. Let me know what you think right here. He's going back to the NFL as a NFL cheerleader for the Vikings. No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to I
was going to say, you're not serious, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not serious. I'm not. But I am. But you got to have some fun. That's one thing I've realized. Every day above ground's a good day, and if you're having a bad day, tomorrow's a new one. So, Eric, I just want to say thank you for taking this time to sit down with me on the Off Topic Show on Compound Censored, and best of luck to you. And I think I'm gonna. I love my wife, but I have a little bit of my own money set aside. Not much, but definitely I think if I was going to put something somewhere, I think I might have to go in the direction of what you were talking about today. With that being said, just stay positive, and thank you so much for just being on here, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. Take care of yourself. Man,
okay.
that was awesome. I just on this software, I just removed him from the stage, but he's in the green room. And I want to let you guys know right now, you can do whatever you want to do. You just have to do it. 1 foot in front of the other. Really, an inch is a cinch. A yard is hard. Just go little by little, and eventually everything will work out. Now, you guys have been watching the Off Topic Show right here. I don't know where you're watching me, but thank you for watching me. Make sure you guys use promo code OFFTOPIC to save 20% off your monthly and yearly subscriptions when you guys subscribe using promo code OFFTOPIC. There's so many awesome shows on the network, but make sure to show your support for the Off Topic Show. And let me go ahead real quick too and do a quick little promo. Guys, when you start living your life doing what you want to do, people are going to look at you like a villain. It's true. Whenever you start doing you, people are going to think you're a villain, going to think you're somebody different. That's right. Go check out my latest single, Chillin' Like a Villain. Wait, the white guy raps? Yeah, I rap. Go find me on Spotify as White Noise. I have a new song coming out in a week. But anyway, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you can go to YouTube and all that other stuff. Guys, this has been another off-topic show right here. Stay highly positive. Go after your dreams. And I'll see you next time. Thank you again.
The beans, we just mutated on a knocky James. Tiger blood, Charlie Sheen. Leadership level.
Oh, also, go to my... Hold on, we're not done yet, dude. Hey, when you are your own promoter, like promoting your music, your merchandise, like, dude, you have to do it for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you, okay? If you don't promote yourself, nobody else is going to. Just keep that in mind, whatever you do, okay? Here's my website, stayhighlypositive.com. Go get the official off-topic show merchandise right here, stayhighlypositive.com. Once again, help support independent content creators such as myself by going to stayhighlypositive.com. Look at this right here. Look at this bag. That's me right there. You can even have me inside you. I mean, you can even have, anyway, go check out my merchandise. All right, everybody, I'll see you later. Thank you again, Eric. All right, I'm out of here.
Beans, we just mutated on a knocky James. Tiger blood, Charlie Sheen. Leadership level like a college vein. Addicted to the truth like crack is to a fiend. The elites killed the American dream. Along with Epstein, let's rage against the machine. Momentum picking up and I'm hardly burning steam. Positivity never makes it mainstream. The country is torn like some